I want you to imagine that you've just heard your doorbell ring. What's the first thought that comes to your mind? Did you just have a little moment of panic? Were you thinking, oh, please let that be the Amazon guy and not somebody I actually know because I can't let anybody see my house like this? If that describes you, first of all, know that you're not alone. And secondly, it's time to admit that you might have a clutter problem. In fact, the National Association for Professional Organizers found that over 50% of Americans are overwhelmed by clutter, and nearly 80% of them don't know what to do about it. But clutter doesn't just cause you to feel overwhelmed and embarrassed. If you have a cluttered home, so much more is at stake than whether or not you can invite your friends over, or whether or not you panic every time you hear an unexpected knock at the door. Clutter affects every part of your life and is having a serious impact on you whether you realize it or not. My name is Melissa B. Howell, and I am the creator of the home organization Made Easy program. I've helped hundreds of people learn the skills to get rid of clutter and keep it out of their homes. More importantly, since I'm certified in cognitive behavioral therapy and positive psychology, I can help you get to the root of the problem and work with you to create lasting change. Now, the first thing I want to say is that if your home is cluttered, it is not your fault. You're not weak, lazy, disorganized, or broken. You are not a failure. Clutter has a very real effect on the brain that causes chemicals to be released that influence your thoughts and actions that very often keep you trapped in clutter. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 areas that are affected by clutter and what's going on in your brain and body. The 5 areas are: number 1, your weight; number 2, your physical health; number 3, depression; number 4, anxiety; and number 5, your relationships. Now, before we start, it's helpful to know about 2 important parts of your brain. Keep in mind that the brain is extremely complex and many components interact with each other, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to describe brain functions in general terms. The first part of the brain we need to understand is the amygdala. Now, the amygdala has often been called the fear center of the brain and the part that's responsible for setting off the fight or flight response when a threat is perceived. When the amygdala is activated, many things happen. Your adrenal system sends adrenaline and cortisol speeding through your body. Digestion stops, your skin chills, and blood is diverted to your muscles so you can burst into action. The liver releases glucose, a type of sugar, for quick energy. Your breathing speeds up, your heart rate goes up, and your blood pressure goes up. Just think about the last time you had to speak in public and you'll know exactly what this feels like. The second part of the brain involved here is the prefrontal cortex. This is commonly referred to as the executive part of the brain. It's responsible for our higher level thinking, like making decisions, planning behavior, determining the difference between good, better, and best, understanding future consequences, working toward goals, and basically how we behave socially, just to name a few. Now, most of the time we want to have our prefrontal cortex in charge because we are our best selves when we're able to think clearly and consider the consequences of our choices and actions. And although the amygdala is very important in keeping us alive during times of danger, it's not designed to be in charge all of the time. But the amygdala doesn't like to share control with other parts of the brain. When it takes over, other parts of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex, simply aren't able to function properly. Now, the main problem with clutter is that it triggers your amygdala and keeps it triggered all the time. You've experienced this when you've walked into your home and you're just overwhelmed with all the visual stimulus. Now, whenever your fight or flight response is triggered, many hormones are released, including cortisol. This is commonly known as the stress hormone. Now, we need this hormone coursing through our veins when danger is present, and we need to react quickly. And then usually when the danger passes, the cortisol in our system decreases. But when we're in a cluttered environment, we are in a constant state of fight or flight. And we might even be so used to it that we don't realize it. But this keeps our cortisol levels high all the time, which has long-term detrimental effects. So what does this mean for us in relation to our weight, physical health, levels of depression and anxiety, and our family relationships? First, excess cortisol often results in weight gain. In the book Lose the Clutter, Lose the Weight by Peter Walsh, he lists several triggers that cause us to desire food. They are stress, sadness, guilt, shame, boredom, and feeling overwhelmed. Now, when you think about your clutter, what are some words you would use to describe how you feel? Aren't they these same words? I've heard from many women who have used the exact words of stressed, sad, guilty, ashamed, and overwhelmed when they describe how they feel about their homes. Since those are the same feelings that cause us to want food, often unhealthy food, clutter can be one of the causes of weight gain. Take a moment to just think about your own habits. What do you do when you're feeling depressed and overwhelmed? Do you reach for the ice cream and chocolate, or do you go for some carrots and hummus? If you find yourself drawn to sweet, unhealthy things, you're not alone. In this same book, a study was cited where people were taken to a room and asked to fill out a questionnaire. Half of the people were taken to a messy environment, and the other half were taken to a clean room. After 10 minutes, they were all offered a snack as they left. There were two choices. You could have an apple or you could have a candy bar. Those who had spent just 10 minutes in the messy room were twice as likely to choose a candy bar instead of an apple. Another study had female college students either be in a messy kitchen or a clean kitchen. The students were offered snacks of cookies, crackers, and carrots. While the consumption of crackers and carrots were basically equal between the two groups, those in the messy kitchen ate twice as many cookies as those in the clean kitchen. Why are we more likely to eat unhealthily when we're in a cluttered environment? Well, it all goes back to your amygdala. When triggered, it takes over and impairs your prefrontal cortex, which is where you make your rational, thoughtful decisions. Basically, it makes you more impulsive. In the book Brainwash by Drs. David and Austin Perlmutter, it's explained this way, quote, "Our brain's response patterns switch from slow, thoughtful, prefrontal cortex control to the reflexive and rapid emotional responses of the amygdala and related limbic structures. This explains why we become impulsive, irrational, and generally worse decision makers when we are stressed," close quote. When this happens over and over, our brain is changed and we become more prone to craving-related behavior. In addition, when the amygdala is triggered, digestion stops and glucose is released into the bloodstream. Now that is not exactly a recipe for weight loss. Along with the obvious health effects of excess weight, the stress caused by clutter can also have other detrimental health effects. Now, we've often heard stress called the silent killer, and this is because stress is the unseen factor in so many different diseases. Healthline.com lists some of the dangerous effects of too much stress. These include, but are not limited to, headaches, stomach aches, insomnia, weakened immune, endocrine, and reproductive systems, increased risk of heart attack, and increased risk of type 2 diabetes. But how exactly does stress cause all these detrimental health effects? In the book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza, he explains the cascade effect that happens in the body that leads to poor health. First, we have an unproductive or negative thought. So in the case of a messy home, this thought could be something like, "I'm so overwhelmed," or "I'll never get this all cleaned up. Nobody ever helps me. I'm too embarrassed to invite friends over." Now this leads to a chemical release in the brain of our favorite hormone, cortisol. And when the cortisol level doesn't drop, this leads to a harsh environment for your cells, which results in disease. One of the major causes of many types of diseases in the body is inflammation. And can you guess what one of the major causes of inflammation is? Stress. Now, in addition to what's going on inside your body, clutter can also cause damage outside your body. Slips and falls can occur when too many things are in our way. Have you ever tripped over your kid's backpack? Me too. In addition, there's actually a fire hazard when excess papers and books are in a home, and things are made even worse in the case of a fire when firefighters aren't able to get past all the clutter. Clutter is also a contributing factor to depression. Studies have shown that a woman's levels of cortisol are directly related to the amount of clutter in her home. In other words, the more clutter you have, the more stressed out you feel. Do you ever feel more depressed and hopeless as the day wears on? That's because cortisol builds up in your body during the day, and by nighttime, you've got your highest levels in your body. Now, when we're not stressed, we receive most of our cortisol in the morning to help us get going, and then it tapers off during the day, enabling us to relax and feel calm as we move into evening. This is the rhythm that our bodies were designed for. But clutter reverses this process and makes us less relaxed and more depressed throughout the day. Take just a moment to think about your own life. Think about last night after dinner. How did you feel? Did you feel more relaxed and ready to wind down? Or did you feel depressed and discouraged? If it's the latter, look around your home and see how cluttered it is. If you've got a lot of stuff on surfaces or in corners or on floors, now you know one reason why you feel so down at the end of the day. Depression has been described as a preoccupation with things of the past, what might have been. So, for example, holding on to clothes that are too small, things from a divorce, your children's toys or clothes, even though they're grown and out of the house. These are all possible symptoms of depression. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't keep anything from the past. I have a few favorite outfits my kids wore when they were little, but I haven't kept all their clothes. Now, the issue with holding on to so many things and thoughts from the past is that we can't move forward. We're living in the land of regret. We're trapped in this negative downward spiral. Now, how does clutter contribute to anxiety? Studies have shown that women associate having a clean home with a happy, successful family. But the more mess there is, the more anxious women feel. Anxiety has been described as a preoccupation with the future. So although it's a companion to depression, it has the opposite focus. Anxiety keeps us constantly asking, what if? We worry excessively about possible future situations. So when trying to declutter, you might be overcome with thoughts of, what if I need this later? What if I give it away and my mother-in-law finds out? She gave me this sweater for Christmas and I hate it, but I can't get rid of it because she will know. She will know. Or what if I get rid of it and then regret it? Now, to be fair, we've all had these thoughts. But when these thoughts become paralyzing and cause us to not be able to make decisions, that's when they contribute to anxiety. It's been said that clutter is just delayed decisions. Sometimes those decisions are delayed because we're too tired, or we don't have a set place where things belong, or we're just too much in a hurry to decide. But many times we don't make decisions because we're afraid of making the wrong one. To me, anxiety is just another word for fear. And what triggers the amygdala? It's fear. And now we're in fight or flight, and that stress hormone cortisol is coursing through our body again. Now, lastly, let's talk about how clutter affects your relationships. In the same study that found a direct correlation between levels of cortisol and stress in women, it was also found that men generally are not as affected by clutter. This explains a lot of the tension between wives who want to have a clean home and their husbands who don't seem to care. However, it's been my personal observation that things can also go the other way. Sometimes men are annoyed by the mess, but their wives are too overwhelmed or depressed to do anything about it. For example, one woman I helped said that her significant other gets frustrated with her for not addressing the mess. So she promises to work on it, but then gets distracted and doesn't finish, and he gets frustrated again, and the cycle just keeps repeating. Spouses can unfortunately express their discomfort in negative ways like name calling, getting angry, making judgmental or negative comments, and being irritable. Now this, in result, can sometimes trigger passive aggressive behavior where in order to stop feeling angry yourself or to get back at your spouse, you buy something to make yourself feel better, but that just upsets your spouse even more, so the vicious cycle continues. Another woman said she's angry at herself about the disorganization in her home, but she takes it out on her husband, blaming him for being a messy. Here's another example of this husband-wife dynamic. One of the women I've helped talked about how much tension the clutter caused between herself and her husband. He took care of the laundry and yard work and was always pointing out how much he had accomplished, which just made her feel more unworthy and unmotivated. Can you relate at all to any of these scenarios? Here's something else to think about. Although U.S. consumers bear only 3% of the world's children, we buy 40% of the world's toys. What does that say about our relationships with our children? Is it possible that we feel guilty for not spending enough time with them, so we buy them toys? Now, there could be many reasons, including wanting to just make our kids happy, but our kids want more of us, not more toys. One of the women I've helped said that she doesn't play with her children as much when she feels like her home is out of control, which leads her to feel sad and even a little angry. Another woman said that there's always something that needs to be tidied up, and that keeps her from being able to just enjoy the day outside or do fun things with her kids. Clutter even affects your ability to understand other people's feelings. A 2016 study showed that background clutter impaired participants' ability to interpret emotional expressions of characters in a movie. Now, if this pattern holds true when we're interacting with others, that means that we'll be less likely to accurately understand how other people are feeling when we're in a cluttered room. Why is this? Well, an active, healthy prefrontal cortex is necessary to feel empathy, love, and compassion. But if your amygdala has taken over, then your ability to feel and express these positive emotions is impaired. Several other studies have revealed that when people are uncertain, surprised, or anxious, they actually become more self-centered and less empathetic. This is because when we feel uncertain, we fall back on what we know, namely our own feelings and perspectives. This means our ability to connect and empathize with others is compromised when we are stressed out or anxious. But honestly, you don't need science to tell you this, right? You've already experienced being less loving to your family when you're stressed out. You're less patient, you might yell more, and spend less time with family members. So just think about the last time you were late and leaving the house and you couldn't find your keys or your phone. Then think about a child coming to you with a question or needing help. How kind and compassionate were you in that moment? How much attention did you give them? How much did you even care about their problem? As an adult, we've all experienced this or a similar situation. You know in your heart, without science telling you, that clutter is negatively affecting your relationships. Wow, that was a lot, and right now you might be feeling a little bit depressed and hopeless, but I want you to know that there is hope. There is a way out of the clutter and into a much better life, and I'm going to invite you to discover what that is in just a few minutes. But before I do that, I want to tell you how your life will change when you do clear the clutter from your home. Now, please don't misunderstand me. Getting rid of clutter will not magically fix every single area in your life 100%. I can't guarantee that because I don't know you and your particular circumstances. But I can promise that getting your clutter under hand will greatly enhance many areas of your life. Here are 10 ways that your life could change when you organize your home. First, your brain craves order. Studies have found that once the visual clutter is no longer draining your cognitive resources, you'll be much more able to focus. Your productivity and ability to process information will increase. And that means you can focus on your goals, your family, and all the other things in your life that are most important to you. Number 2, studies have shown that mental clutter is one of the contributors to age-related memory loss. So as you declutter, your memory will improve. Just think what it would be like to not have to constantly search for your keys or remember where you put the bills. Now, if you're concerned about losing your memory as you age, then clearing out the clutter might become a priority for you. Number 3, neuroscience researchers using an fMRI machine found that clearing the clutter from the work and home environments resulted in increased productivity. Number 4, the American Cleaning Institute found that decluttering reduces everyday housework by up to 40%. Number 5, sleeping in a clean environment will help you have more restorative sleep. Number 6, you'll make better choices about your food. Many people lose weight just from decluttering. In an organized home, there's also more time to plan healthier meals as well as the ability to relax and eat more slowly. Number 7, you'll reduce the stress in your life, which results in greater physical and mental health and better relationships with your family. Anything you do to reduce stress will have enormous benefits in every area of your life. Number 8, a study at Indiana University found that those with clean houses are healthier than those with messy houses. They engaged in more physical activity, including work to keep their home clean. Number 9, when we look around and see all the clutter, it just reminds us of everything we haven't done. Then we feel guilty about it and engage in negative coping behaviors like overeating, binge watching shows, or oversleeping. Decluttering will remove feelings of guilt and replace them with feelings of accomplishment and satisfaction. As a bonus, you won't feel guilty and embarrassed about your home or worried about unexpected visitors. Number 10, you'll create a home you love that reflects your values and represents what you care about the most. Now, this is what science says, but here are what real women like you have said when they've decluttered. Darla talked about decluttering her clothes, linen closet, home supplies, books, bathrooms, and more. She mentioned that she had organized her husband's dresser drawer and how much he was enjoying the ease of finding and choosing things. After telling me about everything she'd been able to accomplish and how much she donated and recycled, she finished up by saying, "This is lightening my spirit a lot." Dina commented that after only 5 days of making small changes, she had started experiencing peace. Lisa talked about helping her mother declutter and organize her craft room. She said, "It was so fun to see her face light up as she cleaned. I think all the chaos was really a burden, and she seemed so much lighter when we were done." After just organizing her clothes, Lizzie said, "I feel like the weight of the world has been lifted off my shoulders." This is what decluttering does for you. Without exception, the women I've encountered who have worked to declutter their homes have only noticed positive changes in how they feel. Did you notice the pattern of light in the comments of the women I shared? How would your life be different if you could feel light? Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. I'd like to help you gain that light in your lives by inviting you to learn more about how you can declutter your home once and for all using my Home Organization Made Easy program. I've created a masterclass for you where I teach you the 3 things that are sabotaging your decluttering efforts, why knowing your organizing personality type is key to your success, and the 4-step homegirl method for decluttering and organizing your home. At the end of class, you'll have a plan and know exactly what you need to do next to declutter and organize your home once and for all. Just click the link near this video to sign up for the on-demand masterclass. I truly believe that getting your home in order is the most important thing you can do for your life right now. Because when you transform your home, you transform your life.